Now it's time to get the PC's background stories into your story. This is something I would encourage you to do because I think that by implementing the player characters into your own story, it gets them more involved. It makes them seem like as if they are actually a part of your story, not just the hero, but a hero with some meat, I guess, in those bones. So as a player, I'm not saying that you have to create a background every time. I think it's totally fine to not. Some players are going to be more, roleplay heavy, but there are those that, see Pathfinder and want to, get those combos through, or, min-max and things like that. And, each playstyle is perfectly fine. But I do think that even those that don't put a background into their story, into their character, I should say, I think as a game master, you'll find that your players will be more drawn into the story when there is more life breathed into their characters. So I'm going to go through my example of 5 players who had created characters for this campaign when we started Gentrail. So we're going to start with Pocky. Pocky is a catfolk, he is a fighter, and that is it. So I had a plethora of information to work with, right? So what I did was I created a city called Grid Point, which was just north of Magma City, that was a third catfolk populace. I also decided that there is a dilemma going on in Grid Point where there is a Sakil that is implementing or whispering fear and despair and doubt into catfolk specifically. So it's causing the catfolk to be a little bit more, I suppose, agitated, quick to anger, or secluded. You hear a bit more of those that go more berserk than you do hear of those that just kind of keep to themselves and become more reserved. But either way, that was a conflict I was open to exploring, especially since I already am implementing a Coatl named Klagiax into the story, and looking through Pathfinder's various bestiary books, and there was a reference about Coatl's going against Sakils, or that seems to be like one of their I suppose innate goals in life. We then have Kegs, the kobold swashbuckler, who was born and raised under a umbral dragon name. I gotta look it up, I'm sorry. Dragons, we give them big names. I don't know why we do this, because it only English is already a hard enough language to speak. I don't know why I've in some other people feel that we need to make dragon names these ridiculous names, so I'll have to look at this one as I pronounce it, but Zolrin Qua is a umbral dragon who oversees a mountain called Curse Mountain. Zolrin Qua kind of has the best in both worlds, not only a horde of his own, but also a mountain full of gold ore that he can continue growing that horde with, utilizing various miners to try to keep that horde growing and all. So Kegs had, I suppose you could say, after a couple of years or so of being born and raised in this environment, I say a couple, a little bit more than a couple, but point is, as Kegs was reaching teenage years, he questioned why are we doing this? Why are we working 16-hour days? Why are we working 7 days a week? Where is the overtime pay? Why do we not have vacations? What does this dragon even do for us anyway in return? So unfortunately, Kegs didn't have a lot of support or people that really questioned that. Mostly other kobolds that they're just good with pleasing their dragon master, and that's about it. And if that just means just mining, that's it. They have a bit more simplistic sort of mindset of things, and Kegs just wasn't satisfied with that. Kegs had a bit more of I guess a brain, even though kobolds are an ancestry in which you can play as. We decided that Those are the few kobolds that are exceptional, that are, I suppose, chosen ones in a way. They are the chosen kobolds amongst the many. Kegs is just, a more of a free lancer type of mindset, has a bit more drive to be independent and not dependent on some powerful beast that just sleeps on his hoard. Then we have Zach, who is a human oracle. Zach is someone who has a unique mother and father relationship, where his mother is a devil and his father is a human. Thus he is, or was, a tiefling. Now they're called Nephilims, I believe. I could be mispronouncing that. So his mother and father both had the same goal, to hunt down a individual who is behind on their taxes. They were both debt collectors for different reasons. His father, for the means of collecting debt for a city called Lionville, and his mother for collecting debts for a place called Hell. So both happened, to meet each other during their goal of trying to find this individual, and eloped and had Zach. And so Zach has always been sort of pulled on both sides. His father wanting him to be raised as a I don't know if I would say human, but just as it's just a normal boy in a city, and that's all. His mother has, of course, the desire to make his son a little bit more, touched into his inner hellish roots. Zach eventually decided that he had enough of dealing with both of his parents, and kind of went off on his own at some point. So then we have Skrit, the Sogi druid. Skrit is somebody who has been born and raised in a circus. His father, Raz, is a beast tamer who is excellent at his shows, or at least his portion of the shows, amongst an acrobat and a couple of clowns and a magician, and so on and so forth. Skrit has an issue with Raz's way of taming his beasts. Raz utilizes intimidation as a means to control the animals in which he oversees, and that's something Skrit doesn't like. Skrit first tried to prove a point by having Coco, his animal companion, as somebody who he's befriended through what would be perceived as normal, acceptable means, but Raz always felt like Skrit's holding back and could do more with Coco, and at some point Skrit decided to make the choice to leave. Even though he really loved his father, he just couldn't accept that part of him, and it just troubled him enough to where once he grew more independent and such, left. And so him, Coco, the animal companion, and Cha-Cha, the familiar mouse, because I utilize free archetypes for the record, went to Magma City to start a new life. Lastly, we have Pork, who is a goblin cleric for a deity called Grimnob, which he made on his own. This Grimnob is a god of subsistence, and thus he is always providing food and water for his companions. So Pork was born and raised in a goblin tribe called the Sizzling Clan, and the Sizzling Clan knows of Grimnob and is takes Pork as somebody who is a prodigy, as somebody who is been blessed by Grimnob, because he is able to create food and water at will, and or at least to an extent, and maybe not at will, but generally speaking, he's got his cleric abilities from Grimnob, and a lot of others didn't get these abilities. So he was well regarded amongst the community, and Pork wanted, or his mission was to spread the word of Grimnob to other people, more than just the goblins, but in amongst his goblin tribe, but to spread the word of Grimnob to others. So that's how he eventually gets to Magma City and begins his journey with the party. So now that we've got all of the PC's backgrounds here in the campaign, I now have a game that's ready to get started. I mean, in a way, we technically had already gotten started, but we now can really start digging into the player stories and, how we're going to kind of pull them in a little bit, right? So, kegs with the dragon and such, at Curse Mountain, if the players ever go north, I could mess with that. Or since I already planned on the Algothu experimenting on dragons and capturing dragons, I did already have in mind that there would only be 2 dragons initially that are here in the world, and we're talking about like true dragons. I say that because there is a Lenorm that's going to be introduced a little bit later, and so there might be other dragons. At least according to Pathfinder, the true dragons are a white dragon that's at the very, very north bit of East Spring Realm. We have a brine dragon that's overseeing like the ocean and such, that is providing protection. I've sort of touched on him a little bit. And the umbral dragon that Kegs had created, that now we have a third. So I decided those are the only 3 that are not in captivity. Then we have, Skrit Skrit. I decided that his father, Raz, and his circus roam around from time to time. It's a traveling circus. I decided I created like a... well, I say create. I guess I created in my mind a chart. I never really drew it out or anything, but I created pretty much this whole thing that every week I would roll a d20, and if it's 11 or higher, then they stay where they're at. And then if it's a 10 or less, then Raz's circus moves to another location that's adjacent, that I felt would make sense based on what story elements are being played out. So now we got 5 PCs that are part of the story now, and they are now a little bit more integrated, a little bit more rooted, I should say, into the story. And now when at any point the story guides the PCs to where their parents or a known location is, did I say that correctly, word that correctly? I don't know. That'll be an opportunity for me as a game master to allow them to automatically maybe know some things, as well as having maybe a place to call like a temporary home, or gain some knowledge that they wouldn't have gained otherwise if their background didn't sort of pull into that, into I guess what it is that they're focused on, that they're trying to achieve. I mean, Raz, Skrit Skrit's dad, probably isn't going to know any of the answers to any of the players' more immediate issues or threats going on, but Raz might know 1 or 2 things about the Mother of Monsters, considering that Raz has some unique beasts with him. Raz might also know a lot about a lot of the cities that are in West Summer Realm, being that he's a traveling, he travels around at various areas, and he's a circus that travels, so he may have a lot of useful insights to tell the players that, hey, don't interact with this person, or hey, if you are looking for a place to stay, go to this person, or I know a great place to eat, or whatever. So those things will be, I think, pretty useful for when you are going to start improving, because inevitably that's what you're going to end up doing as a game master. Especially, I guess, if you play a game kind of the way that I structure the game. As I've mentioned before, I think it's best that you, of course, kind of get with the players to develop sort of an idea of how you want to play, and what sort of expectations that they expect from you, as well as letting them know maybe 1 or 2 things that you expect from the players as well. Not to say that these are supposed to be hardcore rules or anything, but by listening to the players, I have implemented an interest of somebody has an interest in the Eldritch Horror, so that's why I've got the Queen in yellow. Somebody has an interest in Monster Hunter, that's why I'm having a much bigger influence with the Mother of Monsters and the whole conflict between Shaylin and Lamashtu. We've got the player characters a little bit more integrated into the story. I think it overall helps you develop a more fleshed out story, as well as, of course, helping them get more pulled into the story. So next time I see you, we're going to be talking about Session 1 and how the players went about it. Now that we've gone through 3 videos discussing about how I got the campaign written out and ready to go. If you want to see a little bit more of my campaign, feel free to check out the World Atlas that I got going. That's, as I'm speaking right now, still in the works. I'm just still trying to implement as all the NPCs in it and all. I've realized that as I've been implementing stuff from Excel and spreadsheets into World Anvil, that some things are well written out, and there are other things that I wrote out some things and I realized, oh wow, like I really, a lot of it was all just kind of thought out, and I never really put it into words before. So I think a lot of that kind of came with like the improv of our game. There were choices and decisions that I didn't initially make for a character that I ended up deciding, oh, and now this is a part of their past, and that wasn't originally a part of their past before. So I guess that goes with the free forming sort of game as we develop our stories over time.